Hello and welcome to our channel.
We're here to entertain you with some boss movie reactions.
Let's get started. Hello everybody and welcome to Boss Movie Reaction. Yes, we're very happy you guys are here for our special video. Now today we're gonna talk about our own movie named Unnamed. Now we co-produced this movie, but the driving force behind it is clearly Jessica right here, and today we're gonna look at, a little overlook the whole project, and we're gonna ask her some questions. So the very first question would be, what is this movie all about? What's the storyline of this movie? And then afterwards we're gonna watch a little trailer.
Oh, okay. So this is interesting. So Mike did not tell me what was gonna go down, so we're just gonna be talking off the cuff.
Just gonna wing it.
Yeah, you'll get the whole picture. But yeah, Unnamed was a passion of mine to raise awareness of human trafficking, and it's come a long way. I mean, the basic story of it is a Nigerian hairstylist who is just wanting a better life for her family gets promised this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to actually go to LA, work on, sets with like the famous movie stars styling their hair, and then she'll come back and have enough money to support her family. Well, she ends up getting trafficked before any of that happens. It was all a ruse to get her to just go along with this client's help or false promises to get, good employment. And I really wanted to drive this point home of what trafficking looks like from a global perspective and also here in LA, because it's an issue that takes place or that's been impacted by pretty much every country, every state, and it's just an issue that it's rampant, and just I wanted to shed light on it.
Okay, so that's the storyline, and now we're gonna watch the trailer real quick.
Ooh, okay.
So let's see. Here we go.
At your age, I was able to support myself and send home money. And that's what I expect of you, you understand?
Yes, Uncle.
Look, I'm producing the movies. I can get you in. So you would work for 6 months and then come back here and open your own salon.
She's going to a foreign country with a woman we haven't even seen before. Look, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for all of us.
Diana? Stop! Diana!
How long have you been here?
A little over a year. You just gotta do what you're told. Pay off your debt and then you'll be free again.
Whatever it takes, we have to find her. I want to go home. You are at home.
She was my only friend!
On the ground. There has to be something you can do.
I'm sorry.
Go. I want to go home. Hey.
Wow.
All right, so
I haven't seen that in a long time, actually, the trailer.
Yeah.
It's so emotional.
yeah, it's a powerful trailer, and hopefully some of you guys are already inspired to watch the movie. But my second question is, why did you write that movie? What was the spark, and how did the script come into existence? And I know that an Asian friend of yours told you that you should practice your Nigerian accent and practice your Nigerian language, which is Pidgin English. And
Nigerian Pidgin.
by the way, do you know how many languages you guys have in Nigeria?
A lot, but no, I don't know the number. Like over 100.
Over 500 languages.
Whoa, that's more than I thought. I
Yeah.
was thinking 200, 250. I was like, if I say over 100, it's a good bet.
I couldn't believe it. I looked it
Yeah.
up this morning. So I remember the time
Crazy.
when you were practicing your Nigerian accent using YouTube videos,
Yeah.
and you practiced every day, very determined, very disciplined, work ethic you have,
Yeah.
was amazing. And while you were practicing that accent, you came across this one video that changed everything.
Yeah.
So tell us what that video was all about and how it sparked Unnamed.
Yeah, I mean, what you were saying was 100% accurate. So I would watch videos of Nigerians. You know, I think I saw them like they were just shopping at the mall, and they were on the on the streets, like at the markets and stuff like that. And so I clicked into a video of a woman, and it said something about she was recalling her experience being trafficked. And I was like, wait, what? So I watched this video, and literally it's a woman who she was basically told, hey, if you want to make more money, you have to move to Italy. And there's a lot more job opportunities out there. So you have to get your passports, and it's a whole process. And so she went thinking that she was going to get a job as a caretaker. And she ends up being trafficked. And that's the video that changed everything. Like it was so heartbreaking to watch. And I was looking at this girl and I thought, this girl is no different than me, you know? This could literally be anybody. Like this is, you know, and it just made me feel like it was more and more personal, and yeah, it really stuck with me, that impact. And nobody was talking about trafficking at that time. Nobody. I was hearing the news, and I was just shocked that no one's talking about this. So it made me do a deep dive into the world of trafficking and to figure out like what does this entail, and how come it's not going away? How come we're not talking about it? I went down the rabbit hole, and it was just, it's so dark. I mean, you learn things that you're like, you wish you didn't know, and you can't unknow it. But I knew I needed to do something. That's one of the things I knew. I was like, I want to do something about this, but I don't know what I can do because I'm one person. And I even remembered going to our room. I closed the door and I was in prayer, and I was asking God, what do I do about this? You know, because I feel like I need to do something, but I'm only an actress and I don't really know what I'm supposed to do. And I heard, write the screenplay. And at that time, I was not really a writer, as you know. I had written scripts, I think 2 other scripts that you considerably helped me with, and I hated the process of writing. So when I heard write the screenplay, it's not like I was so excited, like, okay, this is what I'm gonna do. I was terrified, because I was like, I don't write. I don't know, you know, I don't want to write another screenplay. It's not my favorite thing. So I came to you.
Yeah, I remember you asked me, hey, can you write a script for me? And I thought, well, I could, you know, if you give me all the information, but I saw the fire in your eyes, and I knew this is coming from deep inside. So I encouraged her to start writing. And, you know, I can always take a look and help a little, you know, but you wrote the script, and how long did it take until you were finished with it?
I think this one was about 2 months.
2 months?
I think so,
and then
for the
some
first draft.
rewrites?
And then rewriting it for the next probably year.
Okay.
You know,
okay.
year and a half, you know. But yeah, it was interesting. And when you told me no, you weren't going to write it, I remember feeling so hurt, so betrayed. I was like, what? And I remember going back into prayer, and I said, I don't want to write this, especially if it's just gonna sit on my computer, because I've already written a couple of screenplays and I'm not that great at writing. I don't want to do a third one, and you know. Now
in retrospect, you're happy that I let you write it?
Well, yeah.
Okay.
Well, listen, you know, I didn't understand it. It's just one of those, you don't know what you're being led to do. And I honestly think it's really good that we don't see the full picture of things.
That's true.
Because if I would have known all of what I would have had to do,
Oh my
I
gosh.
probably would never do it.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot of work filmmaking, and this was my first feature that I was spearheading, you know?
Right, right.
And, you know, one of the things I wanted to say earlier was that when I came back and I said, if this is going to be on my computer, I don't want to do it. And I heard very clearly, it's not going to stay on your computer. And so it's just such an amazing, like, it's amazing to try to wrap my mind around how much God was leading me to this path.
Yeah.
And it really was something that I had to do. And I actually found healing myself, you know, from this process. And so it's really interesting to see that sometimes we don't understand why we're being led somewhere, but it's exactly for a purpose. And that was clear with Unnamed.
Yeah, yeah. And what I actually forgot to say at the beginning, I wanted to say that you wrote it and you produced it and you acted in the lead part and you directed the movie, which was the first feature film that you directed. But now moving on, so we have the script now, and of course the next big obstacle for any independent filmmaker is financing the project. And I remember you made endless phone calls and wrote endless emails to investors and human trafficking organizations and so on for years, and it wasn't very fruitful until we finally decided to use our own resources and make the movie as cheap as possible. So maybe tell us a little bit about the process during those years of trying to finance this movie.
Yeah, I mean, it was very difficult, and there were so many times where I just felt that it wasn't going to go anywhere because, you know, I tried to make connections with all types of NGOs, nonprofits, people, companies who I knew were activists as well, and helping to like see the mission of trafficking come to an end. And it just felt that at every turn there was just obstacle after obstacle after obstacle. And at one point we were very close to getting off the ground, and it was, I think, right before COVID, I was having conversations with somebody in the industry who kind of literally was like trying to say, oh, let's make it for a bigger amount. Like let's make it for $3-4 million, and then I can get a name for you, and you know, just blowing a lot of smoke. And then when COVID had hit, that person did not take my phone call anymore, and it was just so disappointing. And I just kept thinking, you know, how am I supposed to do this by myself, you know? And it became very clear that that was not the timing. And after this period, when we had already come back and done a couple other films, I got a message in prayer that now is the time for Unnamed. I just heard, now's the time. And use your own resources. And I was like, okay, well, I don't really have much resources. You know, I went to my own savings account and started. And then I came up to you and I was like, Loyally, will you direct this?
Yeah, that's another story.
I'm always trying to pass off like the stuff that I don't want to do. I'm like, can you do this?
Yeah, but I remember that we found a few small investors, gave $5,000 here,
yeah,
3,000 there. So once the money came together to at least start, then we could do, you know, get into pre-production. And of course, that's a whole different animal, because you got to look for the cast, you got to look for the crew, you got to do location scouting and make a shooting schedule and look at the wardrobe and the food possibilities. This is, I mean, we're talking about hundreds of hours of work just to get the pre-production together, you know. And what was one thing that stuck out, just the pre-production, that was the most difficult one?
Pre-production was definitely all the logistics of making sure that all of my cast, crew, and the locations
I think that's
we're
the big one.
all able to do it the same day, because so my cast, I had like 38 actors
Yeah, a lot of people.
in this entire movie. Obviously not everyone worked every day. We had maybe like 6 or 7 main cast, and then some people were only there for 3-4 days even when they were main cast. So it is spread out, but I'm having to go between all of the cast and all of the crew and then all the locations. And because we had very little money, we had to be location dependent. So meaning I would call up a location and I'd say, hey, I want to shoot here. Great. This is how much it's going to cost. I'm like, great. Okay, we're indie. We only have this much. And so in order to make negotiations work, I had to be ready to be able to shoot at a specific location on a very random day at a very random time. And I had to make sure that all my cast and crew were available for that day. And sometimes that gave us 1 day notice or 2 day notice. So even on my days, like all the prep that had to go into like food and who's going to be there what time and all the other logistics, I had to make sure that everyone's available. And once everyone's available and confirmed, it's like, okay, great. All the logistical problems like that were very tough, and that was all on 2 to 3, maybe 4 hours of sleep every night while we were shooting.
The logistics are mind-blowingly complex. And I remember the locations, finding the locations for a reasonable price was very, very challenging, especially, you know, there was this one scene in an airplane, very short scene. We just needed a mock-up airplane for 2-3 hours. And this guy said, oh, I'll give you a good deal. Come on by. Turns out 30,000 for 1 day. So we had to look for somewhere else. But okay, so that was the pre-production. Now we're moving into finally shooting the movie. And I remember, I think we were shooting 14 days, right?
So we shot 15 and a half days.
15 and a half days. We had about 12 different locations. And I want to know from you, because not only did you produce this whole thing, but you were also the lead actress in it, and you directed this whole thing. So talk a little bit about the challenges of doing all those different jobs during those 15 and a half days, which was spread out with different weekends and stuff, and you know, those odd days that we had to book. So talk a little bit about that experience, wearing so many hats.
That wearing a lot of hats was definitely very hard. I definitely don't want to do it quite like that again, because these are all jobs. If you work on studio movies, every person has a unique job, and you only do that job on a movie. That's why on big budget movies they're $20-50 million, because you know, everyone's got their job. Now when you're switching between different hats, that becomes I mean, it was one of the biggest challenges, honestly, because I would love to have just stayed creative in my creative hat, and I feel as though acting and directing are creative. Producing is much more of your logical brain, and that's not really my favorite part of my brain to work out of. It's not. And it's very difficult. And, you know, my character, Ijoma, had an accent and is Nigerian, and I thought at first I would pull the whole method acting technique and just be in my accent all day and be in character. And I soon realized, no, that's not going to work, because
you can't be a director and talk to in your Nigerian accent.
Driving people crazy, like they're trying to get a straight answer and I'm here acting. No, I'm like, that's not going to work. So I had to be very compartmentalized. Actually, I think it's a lot like how you operate. Like, I had to put things in their boxes. So I had to focus on this, but I also had to multitask a lot. Like, so I felt so schizophrenic at times, because I'd be in the hair and makeup chair, and then I would be talking to my first AD, who, first assistant director, who would help me, tell me like what needs to be done and organize. And then you would be off making our all of our production and art design and stuff, because I didn't have the money to hire that. I didn't have the money to hire a producer. That's why we wore these producing hats. Otherwise, I would really have loved to give that job to somebody else. But, you know what? Indie filmmaking, right?
What impressed me the most, I mean, yeah, I was wearing different hats too, production design and pushing the set forward and talk about the different shots while you do the makeup and the hair. But then you came on set and you directed the actors having the hat of the director on, and then in a few seconds you had to snap back to be Ichoma and doing an emotional scene. I mean, that was with an accent.
Yeah.
I mean, this is unbelievably impressive. People who don't know about movie making have no idea how complex this whole thing is, how difficult it is, and how, you know, to just switch the feelings on and off. It's amazing. The accomplishment.
Aww.
Brings tears to my eyes. Really amazing. See, you guys thought I'm not going to cry because it's not a movie reaction. Wrong. So, okay. So now we talked about the shooting, and the movie was finally in the can. And now, of course, a whole new beast, a new mountain to climb was post-production. Now, post-production, that's you do the editing, you do the sound design, the sound fixing, you do the soundtrack, you do color correction. It's a lot of technical gobbledygook, and it's a huge process. And recently I have read an article about independent movie making, and I was shocked to learn how many independent movies go into post-production and never make it out because they don't have the quality, they don't have the footage, the sound is not good, they don't have the coverage, they don't have the money to go back and reshoot, so the movie just dies in post-production. The number was very, very high. But what I want to know, going through post-production, which you never have done from the beginning to the end, because you're the director, you had to overlook all the different departments. What can you tell us? What sticks out going through just post-production?
So, post-production, and like you mentioned, I'd never been through this. So after shooting, which as we just heard was very tough, and one thing I wanted to say about the role, a lot of times I would only get 1 to 2 takes, sometimes 3, but I couldn't just do take after take after take after take.
Oh, no time.
There was no time. So I had to work very fast and pull these crazy emotions out because I'm being trafficked, you know?
Right.
You know,
no laughing matter.
Characters being trafficked. I thought that was hard. And it was. Post-production was harder than what I ever thought to. I thought I'm gonna get to just relax now that the movie's finished and it's gonna be easy peasy. No, this was a whole different beast that required a whole new learning curve because I never really did post-production. I didn't edit it. We actually hired an editor who did a fantastic job. And I thought, my goodness, this was some of the hardest things. Every part of filmmaking has been challenging in its own right, and this was no different. And we were in post for a year, or a little over a year.
Over a year.
And at one point, I thought we might not have a movie because there was some incident that happened, and it was unfortunate. But my goodness, I was using different parts of my brain that I thought, this is hard. Post-production
is a hugely complex process.
Just so technical.
That's why I said a lot of technical gobbledygook.
Yes.
You know? And so post-production was a little over a year. Then finally the movie is done, and then there is the next huge mountain to overcome, which is of course distribution. And also, once the movie was done, we realized it was too long. So we went back into editing, cut it down 20 minutes, and now ended up with 1 hour and 34 minutes. But of course, distribution is the next big hurdle, because if you go through the trouble to make a movie, if you don't find distribution, then what's the point? You know, why did you make the movie? So you decided to go first and do the film festivals because that's a good way to attract distributors, you know. So tell us real quick about your experience with all those different film festivals and if you won any awards and stuff like that.
Okay, yeah. So the film festivals, finally the film's done, or so I thought, because we ended up cutting it, as he said. But we got, so it's a whole process with film festivals. There are thousands of film festivals, and they all have application fees. They can range from anywhere from free, of course, but to like the average is usually around like $40-50. I would make connections with the people like that I knew which festivals I wanted to play at, and I would talk to them and try to find that common ground.
That took a lot of research to look at those hundreds of film festivals, because you don't want to submit your film to a film festival that just started, because it doesn't do any good, you know. And you can't, I mean, you can submit to the highest, but usually you need celebrities in the movies and stuff. So a lot of research, and you finally then chose like 10, 15.
And also like not just that too, but like there are film festivals that they love pro-female movies, and then there's some that they love more of like the quirky indie like comedies.
Research.
So it like the research is what will my film fit with their lineup. So a lot of research. So also difficult, but not quite like the other things. Not quite like post-production and shooting, but still a lot of research, a lot of time. I submitted to a good amount of you know, maybe like 25 film festivals or something like that. And then I world premiered at my dream festival. This was the top festival that I submitted for. I didn't bother with like Sundance and South by Southwest and you know, the real big ones, because they get a lot of submissions, and you really do need to have certain things in place with those ones. But Dances with Films, I volunteered like few years, like way back when, and I remembered as a volunteer, this was when I was just acting, I just wanted to learn like the process of film festivals, and I was so impressed by how they were so filmmaker friendly. I was thinking, one day I want to have a film here. Not even really thinking about it. I just knew I just want to be a part of this because I like whatever this is. And then a few years later, my film world premiered there at the Chinese Theater. In Hollywood, you know? So it was one of those like dream moments, like, that was like our top festival that I was like, I gotta get into this one.
That was amazing. And just 1 second, we actually shot a video about this entire week when we went to Dances with Films Film Festival, and when the movie premiered. An entire video, I will put the link in the description. You should check it out. It's like a half an hour long. You will get a real nice insight into this whole film festival thing and the project and more about Jessica. It's an amazing compilation video. You should check it out. So
and your editing skills were so good, honey.
Yeah, I'll try my best, you know.
They're getting tighter and tighter.
So Dances with Films, and then you got into 2 film festivals in the UK and Nigeria and Spain.
So I got into a film festival in London. They were showing our film the same day as the one in Dances with Films. They were just 9 hours ahead, so there was no way I could make it out there, and I was so disappointed because I thought this would be my chance to go to London. You know, I have family in London, and it would have been amazing.
Did you do a Zoom call with them?
Not with them, but with that one, Ramsgate. That's where I won this.
Best Actress.
I got Best Actress. So I had no idea they were going to send an award, because a lot of festivals send you certificates.
Yeah, digital certificates.
You know, it's cute and nice. You can post it on social media, you know. And then they were like, oh, what's your address? And so I gave it to them. And then like a month later, I'm like, what is this box from London? I totally forgot. And then I open it, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like a legit award. Like This
Yeah.
is glass.
It's very nice, very cool.
Yeah, it's got my name on it. Best Actress Jessica Boss in Unnamed. I was so touched to receive
and you
that.
should be
Because
proud of that.
as you know, I struggle sometimes with that, like, oh, am I good enough? You know, and
Yeah.
there were moments I was like, oh, my performance, I if I would have just not directed, I could have done a little bit better. And I was kind of getting down on myself, like, oh, too many hats, and now I'm not doing any of them right. The whole artist chatter that,
That's when Mr. Pep Talk comes
yes,
in.
this is the guy who inspires me to get off of that. And literally, I was just like down on myself, and then I get an award, Best Actress. I was like, okay, this is a confirmation that I need to stop being so hard on myself.
Right, and the second UK Film Festival, didn't you win the
I
Best
won
International Film?
Best International Film.
That's amazing.
And I was nominated Best Director at that one.
Ooh.
And then we were in Silicon Beach Festival at the Chinese Theater again in LA. So a lot of our cast who didn't get a chance to be at the premiere, which was like packed, packed house. It was amazing. So they came to this screening, and then I was a finalist for Best Feature Film at the Eastern Nigerian
the Nigerian
Film Festival, which that was our last festival on the festival run, which was such a great way to end it,
Yes.
back in Nigeria, of all places.
Where the movie started,
Where the movie started.
And where both of your parents came from.
Yes.
They're originally from Nigeria and then moved to Texas, where
yes,
this lovely one was born. So now, okay, film festival route is over, and now we were looking towards distribution, and we did have a few offers from distributors, and we looked at the contracts, and we Zoom called with them and talked. But after looking at those contracts, we realized that they were just not fair. They were totally stacked against the filmmaker, and even after negotiating, we still realized it's not fair. They're taking advantage of us, So we ultimately went back to our former distributor, Indie Rights, who distributed our movie back then in 2018, our very first movie, Anonymous 616. And it was interesting because 10 years ago, Indie Rights took on a lot of movies, but now 10 years later, they're very picky. They're not just taking any film. So we were honored that they took our film on, and now it's available, on Amazon and YouTube and Google Play, and probably soon the rest of the streaming platforms like Tubi and stuff. But is there anything that stood out? Because that was a new experience for both of us, this whole distribution world. Very complex again. What did you learn about that, or what stuck out in that whole distribution process?
Well, I would say I think little by little I started to recognize how big this whole world was that I didn't really know much of. I actually went to Cannes in 2019.
S'il vous plaît, croissant.
And I was going there for the intention of learning about distribution, because that's where all the buyers go to. And I never understood that process. And I had conversations with distributor friends, and I still was just so, I couldn't wrap my mind around it, because it was just, there's so much, it's so complex.
If you don't know the lingo and all that, then you don't understand what they're saying.
You don't know. And I realized that in having gone through this process, that was the beauty of going through pre-production all the way to distribution with this film, because now I understand distribution so much better than I ever did. And this is an invaluable thing that sometimes, like, the things we do, it builds upon the next thing, and then it builds upon. So I think the main thing that stood out was, how can we get our projects out? How can we get them seen and distributed ultimately, but where we can have a more fair deal, like you were saying before. It's not, I don't want to just put all distributors on blast, because I just think for where we were, and like with this it's a lower budget film, I feel like where we were, we wanted to really be with somebody who was going to be more filmmaker friendly, and that's where indie rights came in. And you know, they are not taking fees. They're very transparent with the reporting. We had a relationship with her before. I actually ran into them at AFM because I went to AFM in Vegas, and you know, so I felt like this was the right direction for where we are right now. It's hard to know who's really out there helping and who's just taking advantage. Obviously, if you keep hearing over and over the same name is taking advantage, it's a good chance they're taking advantage, and you don't have to bother. But when you also hear mixed bag things, like some people, oh, this company is amazing, and then another person said, we were in litigation with them and we won our case. It's like, who do you believe?
And some filmmakers, they might think they had a good experience. They don't even know that they got screwed over, you know what I mean? So it's hard to figure it out.
You make a good point, because filmmakers, we're not the ones who usually handle this. Usually you give it to somebody else, maybe a producer's rep or a lawyer. They're supposed to handle this stuff. I realized I'm learning how to operate, which usually filmmakers don't get this experience. So I'm learning about distribution from first-hand experience, not just like, you know, that's
right. Like, absolutely, because if you have the money, you just pay somebody, you pay a lawyer. But if we get a contract from a distributor, we don't know if this is a good deal or a bad deal. We got to do research. We got to call other filmmakers, and then after a few days of being on the phone all day and writing emails, you find out, oh wow, good thing we didn't sign this one, you know. So ultimately, we got distribution through indie rights, and now we're going to wrap this up. I'm going to give you the floor one more time. But the movie is out, as I have mentioned before, and we really would like you guys to watch the movie. Support this movie, support us, support Jessica. Go to Amazon, whatever, pay the $3.99 or whatever it costs, and write us a great review. Give us 4 or 5 stars and write something great, and let us know, because if you review the film on Amazon, for example, send us an email and let us know, because then we can give you a shout out in our next video. So that would be very much appreciated. Support us as a team, independent filmmakers. That would be awesome. And now, if there's anything else you want to say before we wrap up, that's the moment.
Well, I literally feel incredibly blessed and honored to shepherd this story. I think that it came at such a time that it was needed, and I often think that you know, human nature, when something bothers us and we're passionate about it, sometimes we want someone else to do it. Like me, I kept trying to like shuffle it to you, you know, but I really do think that is usually, if we're the ones getting passionate about something, it's usually a sign that that's because I or you are supposed to do something about it. And we can't always just rely on, can't someone else do it, you know? And I don't think you need a whole lot to get started. Like, I thought, oh, well, I need to have this type of budget in order to make a film, because I know what it takes to make a film, and it's not cheap. And even in the film world, $2.5 million is considered low budget. So yeah, we were micro budget.
I mean,
we were micro budget, but micro. You know, but I realized that sometimes it's just taking that first step, even in the face of fear, in the face of like being uncomfortable and not knowing what to do. And I think it's okay. And at the end of the day, I am very proud of Unnamed and the mission behind it. And I just hope it touches your life the way it touched my life personally. Like I think your life too.
Of course, you know. How could it not touch my life, being around this project and her for so many years? So okay, so that's that. I hope you guys subscribe to our channel and follow her on Instagram too, because trying to build an audience, you know, that would be amazing. There was one more thing I wanted to say, but I forgot now. Oh yeah, if you have any more like specific questions, you can leave them below.
Yes.
Maybe Jessica has time to answer them. And we'll see you soon with the next Boss movie reaction. Thanks for being here. Thanks for your support. Until soon. Bye-bye.